Hey Adventurers, so today is going to be my review for The Prisoner of Zenda, by Anthony Hope. This is, I gotta pull up my outline that I wrote here, but this is a swashbuckling adventure. It's intrigue, it's political. There's a lot of similarities to things like Three Musketeers, and I'll get into more of that in a second here. I guess I should mention this since it's a good spot for it, and that is, if you like what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and like the video and comment down below with your thoughts. And now we'll get right into this review. So, the story is about a man who has an uncanny resemblance to the king of Ruritania. That's a hard word to say sometimes. And so when the king disappears, he is forced to step into place as the king in order to maintain the rightful rule in the land. Basically, there's somebody trying to usurp the throne. The main character, Rudolph is the main character, has to step in and be like, no, we're not going to allow this to happen, and so I'm going to play the role of the king until we can get the king back, or until such time as the king can no longer be gotten back, whatever happens. And so, it's very much a swashbuckling adventure, but also with a lot of political intrigue and maneuverings. I always enjoy disguises and characters becoming someone else for a time, as with the Count of Monte Cristo or the Scarlet Pimpernel or stories like that. But there's more to it than just that. The truth is known to some of the characters, to the main bad guy. That character knows the truth. There are several people around the main character who know the truth, but for the most part, the bad guy knows the truth, and the good guys know the truth, and everybody else doesn't. And so there's a lot of political interplay and like that they have to deal with. Okay, so the truth is known, and so the story is about how to keep the secret from getting out to the rest of the nation while still keeping the king alive long enough to restore him to the throne. The characters are actually quite engaging, and you do quickly grow to enjoy them. It is a relatively short book at around 150 pages. This edition is a little bit longer, but it's also got Rupert of Hentzau, which is the sequel to Prisoner of Zenda, in it, and so it's a bigger book, but it's a pretty nice edition. So it's a relatively short book at around 150 pages generally, but it is a very fun book as well, fun story. I couldn't help but compare it quite a bit to Alexandre Dumas, specifically The Three Musketeers. There are a lot of similarities between this book and the D'Artagnan romances, so not just The Three Musketeers, but Three Musketeers 20 years after, and then 10 years later, which 10 years later is split into Viscount de Bragelonne, Louise de la Valliere, and then The Man in the Iron Mask. So that is generally what you'll find is basically five stories, 5 different books for this D'Artagnan romances, even though it's really only 3. So this, however, is far less complicated than the D'Artagnan romances than any of the books they're in. There's a lot of similarities to the stories with the swashbuckling nature and the political intrigue and all the politics that are going on and everything, and how that all ties together. But it's far less complicated in that there's far fewer storylines happening at the same time. You're really following the main storyline from the beginning to the end of Rudolph, his storyline from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, and that's what you get with this specific book. Whereas Three Musketeers and the rest of the D'Artagnan romances, you have that main storyline of following D'Artagnan from the beginning of his story to the end of his story, but you've also got the stories of Athos, Porthos, Aramis, Milady, the King, the Queen, the Duke of Buckingham, and Cardinal Richelieu, and all these other characters that have their own stories going on and that are all weaving in and throughout this whole story, and you have a massive tapestry of story that's being told, whereas this is really just a single storyline that's going forward, and it's in that way it's a lot more simple and less complex than Three Musketeers. That's not to say one is better specifically than the other, but they're just told differently, but there are some similarities in the type of story that it is. So there are far fewer subplots and interwoven storylines, and it really tells a straight story from beginning to end. However, the swashbuckling nature mixed with the political intrigue reminded me very much of The Three Musketeers, which is kind of what I just said. It's just more concise there. So it's definitely a really good book. It's not my favorite. I think I have it at 4 stars on Goodreads, but it's definitely a really enjoyable read, and I am very glad that I read it because there's a lot of cool things in it and a lot of cool ideas and storylines presented. The writing, I did really enjoy the writing, and it's always fun for me to get some more historical fiction. Very much historical fiction, because Ruritania doesn't exist, it's a fictional land. But it is a very cool story, and very happy and enjoyed it a lot since Kate picked it for me, and I was like, alright, well finally I can actually read this book. So thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. Please let me know what you thought of this review, and if you've read this book, let me know what you think of the book. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.